Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and there's been a lot in the news regarding remnants, I'll call them, of the Epstein case. We had Peter Nygaard being arrested. We have Jean-Luc Brunel being arrested. We have now Ghislaine Maxwell being denied bail twice. But what we're not talking about is the past. And it is because of this, and because of this narrative that Epstein killed himself twice. Well, he tried to kill himself once, didn't do it. Second time, got him. Ask a laughing Bill Barr, the guy you could totally trust. He's got nothing but love in his heart for you. The career CIA guy, the Kirkland and Ellis guy, the Bush Senior Attorney General guy, no problems there, okay? But there's also a striking similarity in the way that Epstein was moving in young girls and then women as John Wayne Gacy and others were moving in young boys and men. And a lot of people don't understand that because they haven't read the Franklin scandal. They don't understand what was going on in the 70s and 80s with the trafficking of children and how a lot of the evidence proved even more disturbing than today. When we've talked about, for instance, Sandusky, we've talked about the masking of charity for unfortunate kids as a part of George Bush Sr.'s 1,000 Points of Light Foundation, the Second Mile Foundation. Well, guess what? They utilized foundations there. Oh, guess what? And when I say there, I'm talking about they utilized a foundation in this ring, and we're going to talk about the source material a little bit during Gacy's era, because Gacy wasn't living alone. You can listen to Gacy's tapes, and he talks about who he was working with and how much of the evidence pointed to that and how much of it ended up pointing to these millionaire rich men across the country that were a highly organized unit of upper echelon pedophiles. It's scary to think that way. But what's scarier is that none of these guys end up being brought to justice. Instead, you get like cartoon villains like Gacy behind me. And then you get, guys like Epstein, who in many ways are front men for others who were clearly working with people like Les Wexner, who's been exonerated by official sources and is someone that Maria Farmer has called the head of the snake. Okay? Now, all these things have to be realized. But first, we're going to go to a story about Epstein that's not making huge rounds, and there's some differences in the story. So there's a Daily Mail version, but its source is a New York Daily News version. And essentially, the last cellmate Epstein had has now died of COVID. And I didn't even know he had this cellmate. We're not talking about Nicholas Tartaglione. This person was transferred, I believe, the day before Epstein didn't kill himself, in my opinion. How about that? We'll say it that way. So, thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. We're going to get to all the information soon. Remember, we are fully 100% demonetized on this platform, almost 9 months. We reviewed the channel. We've got no response. We can't get thumbnails reviewed on this channel. That's how it works over here at the Burmis Brigade. So $5, $10, $15, big donors. You mean the world to me, of course. We've got this DC trip coming up. Not going to be cheap. Really could use your support then before January so I can gear up and get ready to go. Thumbs the video up, subscribe, share. Check out all the documentary films. They're in this playlist section right here. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture. Remember to Rockfin. 11 a.m. I either go live or there is a new posted video Monday through Friday. That's Eastern time. We got an exclusive with Ariel Castillo over there right now. Okay, you can check that out. And the day before's exclusive is only over there. So make the free account. Join me at Rockfin. That's where I'll be if I get deplatformed. Now, I've already put this link, and we're going to go back to this in a moment. I've already put this link. The Candyman I'm sorry, The Clown and the Candyman investigation discovery piece. Now, why am I highlighting that before I get into this story about Epstein? Because Investigation Discovery, unlike the Netflix documentary series that got all this hype and all this media attention, looked in to a lot of the abnormalities, intelligence ties, and, was critical of Acosta, right? So it did a better job, in my opinion. And now, Investigation Discovery, although I only see 3 parts available right now, but they've all been recently released. So maybe there was actually a new one today, if I'm seeing the schedule correctly. It's an 8-part series. And this is going hardcore, talking about islands of underprivileged boys, targets. Another similarity was that, he would have young girls recruit others from local high schools in Florida. Well, these guys were recruiting some of these young men that they would torture, kill, and rape from their high schools or childhood as well. I mean, Dean Coral, my God, these are the monsters that you can't imagine. And then they go and they interview these people about them, and on the surface, it doesn't look like anything you see underground or in the dark. Okay? So I want to go over this because, again, there's some discrepancies here. And I think it's important. Now, this is the gentleman here, Efren Stone Reyes. He was 51 years old. He's now dead. They interviewed his niece. Okay? Now, he was in there for dealing crack and heroin. And I'm going to go to the New York Daily News, where this apparently came from. Now, I don't know if they changed some of the quotations or whatnot, but we want to get into exactly what at least the niece or he had to say about it. They took him to my uncle because he had a broken leg. He was disabled. My uncle kept to himself. He was laid back. So in other words, she's saying they put them together because, he had a broken leg. He was no threat to Epstein. Epstein liked to read a lot, and he kept to himself. He wasn't a problem starter or too loud. My uncle said he was a good cellmate. Reyes, who pled guilty to narcotics conspiracy involving crack and heroin at the Bronx housing projects, saw firsthand that Epstein was trapped between inmates and cruel correctional officers, according to Lopez. So this might be a secondary part to that article. Let's see. Is that, that's another New York Daily News. They knew how much money he had. They said, let's push him around and extort him for money. They thought they could get his money. Staff were treating him like crap. They were making him sleep on the floor. They wouldn't let him sleep on a cot. Again, this is from the niece. Okay? Let's see. He was a little worried about if he told on security workers at MCC, okay, and would somehow lash out at him. He was worried that if he told on them, due to Epstein, he was worried it would follow him and affect him negatively. They were asking how Epstein was when he was in his cell and if he seemed suicidal. They were asking if he had any indication that he would do that. My uncle cooperated. Okay? Now, if you go over, again, I didn't read the other article over there, but if you go over into this, Epstein supposedly was paranoid and thought that they were going to try to kill him. And that's why, and he said he might as well do it himself. That's one of the quotes over here. So let's get that one in here. Let's see. Reyes said to have told his niece in his final days Epstein was on suicide watch, was very depressed, and said he didn't want to live anymore. Another former MCC inmate was quoted as telling the Daily News that Epstein was saying he was going to kill himself because the government is trying to kill him anyway. All right? Now, if you go into the bottom right here, let's see. He says, let's see. Following his release, Reyes expressed doubts that Epstein could have hung himself from the frame of the bunk bed, and it wasn't tall enough, saying it didn't make sense. No kidding, doesn't make sense. So that's all here. All right? So this guy who was saying it didn't make sense, he was the cellmate, he was taken away the night before the guy killed himself. He's also dead of COVID. But now, I want to get into the clown and the candy man. What you had here was a case in the 1980s where not only was, this organized, how do I say this? Torture, porn, murder ring going on, but they were also filming child pornography as well. And I mean, these people were doing some of the most nefarious, disturbing, disgusting, unbelievable, inhumane things that you could only believe actual demons would do. In many cases, while they had their victims on the torture board, tied up on a torture board, they would have them write notes home saying that they had moved to another city, to throw the police off for a little while. I mean, this was really disgusting. And, this was going on in suburbs in Texas and in an era where people couldn't fathom it. This was before stranger danger, you bet. And yes, there was an island with a camp. And remember, Epstein also donating to art camps. He actually had a cabin at one of those things. These predators utilize underprivileged kids, groom those kids, and then you can only imagine how unspeakable their actions are. I would encourage you to read The Franklin Scandal, The Franklin Cover-Up during this same era. I would encourage you to read or watch Derek Brose's documentary series on the Finders, or read the FBI documents, etc. Now, I want to give a shout out to Titus Frost, because I read a tweet and I saw the third one first, it's audio, but it's highly produced. It's Investigation Discovery. Again, the same ones that did a really good job with Epstein. And they actually cross-reference Epstein throughout this whole thing. So, again, that link is in the live chat. I want you to go check it out for yourself, because in all these cases, when you have like this, politicized, serial killer, there was no serial killers before this. When the media really goes with it, and especially in a case like Gacy, they're working with other people. The story is much bigger. And then none of these people with money and power seem to go to prison. So do you think the ring stops? Do you think the rich and powerful stop what they're doing? I'm just saying. And I know a lot of people want to, bring me into the QAnon sense on this one. No, I've been talking about this for well over a decade because it is important. Lord Mountbatten, you look at these guys, doctors working within the Rockefeller Foundation and their medical institutions. We do videos on these guys because the things that they've done to children and that continue to happen to children should shock us all into immediate action. So please go check this out. I think it's really important. Guys, I'm going to wrap this one up pretty quick. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Remember, again, we are fully demonetized on this platform. $5, $10, $15, big donors. You do mean the world to me. That's how I support myself over here. Go check out all the documentary films, Shade the Motion Picture, Invisible Empire, A New World Order, Define Fabled Enemies, and of course, Loose Change Final Cut. By the way, shout out to Dylan Avery. I watched Seven today. You can watch it on Amazon Prime or iTunes or any of that stuff, or Vudu. It's like $5. I suggest people go check it out. It's under an hour. It's very well done. And props for him to putting that together. I'm going to be trying to get him on the show before I go to DC. If not, we will definitely get him on after. So again, follow me on Twitter. A lot of people ask me where some of the source material is. You can always pause the video, or you can follow me on Twitter, where I post a shiz ton of this stuff. Make sure you make a Rockfin account. Again, today's got an exclusive. Yesterday's got an exclusive that didn't get posted. Tomorrow's will be exclusive. Because if you've watched this video of Do You Love Me, I'll get a copyright strike for that. Boston Dynamics won't. But that's going to be an important opener on transhumanism, automation nations, and so much more tomorrow. Because, guys, it's not about left or right. It's about right and wrong. And the subject matter we just went over is about as wrong as it gets. See you on the flip side. Love you.